What's the number one outcome that you want listeners to walk away with today?
Is being a servant leader. That is the ultimate goal.
If they remember only one idea, what should it be?
You could be a servant leader at any point in your life. This is just the way to perfect it, I think.
When did you realize relationships would compound more than skills?
World of AI, many skills can be duplicated, but the relationships still can't be.
What's one mistake that you made early on in your career?
It's something I really highly encourage other people to do, is to trust their gut, trust their intuition.
Can you define for me board of directors for life?
Without counsel, you make bad decisions. Your plans fail. With much counsel, your plans succeed.
Have you considered creating an AI board of directors?
I have, yeah, and I might just do it.
What changes when someone has that board of directors versus going solo?
I get a call from Elon Musk's personal assistant saying, I was told I have to hire you. He is not too proud to ask anybody.
Today, I'm interviewing Dennis Baker, author of Building Your Board of Directors for Life. I just finished the book, and it's a practical blueprint for building a personal board of people who guide you, challenge you, and keep you accountable. Dennis is also CEO of DM Baker Media Relations, where he focuses on media messaging and crisis management across nonprofits, advocacy, and entertainment. And he is the founder and CEO of Police Assist, a mobile app designed to help drivers locate fee-free parking. Across his career, he supported fundraising and communication campaigns for organizations of all sizes, with experience spanning from nonprofit work, government, and media. Here's a promise for you today. By the end of this episode, you'll have a simple process to start building your own board this week, plus a network follow-up system that doesn't feel transactional. We'll also touch on servant leadership and what Dennis is working on right now. Dennis, thank you for being here. What an honor.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I want to start with your North Star for the listener today. Then we'll dive into the framework. What's the number one outcome that you want listeners to walk away with today?
I think if they can understand how they can build a group of advisors and mentors through relationship that can help them not only be a better person, but a better servant to their friends, family, and the greater community. I think that is the ultimate goal, is being a servant leader. And that's what I would like to see more people become.
If they remember only one idea, what should it be?
I think that servant leadership is key. I think that would probably be my main focus. That's my own personal focus, is finding ways to serve. That's all that I feel like my purpose in life is. So all of this is the ability to make better decisions, the ability to have that board so that you can, have the career path that you want, or do the types of things that you want, or make the kinds of decisions you want to build whatever it is in your life you're trying to build, is really just part of the foundation, or part of the initial process to a point of getting to the servant leadership component and becoming a better servant leader. Although you could be a servant leader at any point in your life, this is just the way to perfect it, I think, at the end of the day.
I love it. I cannot wait to dive more into servant leadership. Let me ask you, why did you write Building Your Board of Directors for Life now?
I've been asked over the last 10 years, I've been speaking to different colleges and college campuses, and I've had professors come up to me and say, this is a really unique approach, what you're sharing. I think you should write a book about it. And I thought, well, maybe one of these days I will. More recently, one of my publisher friends, I was having dinner with him about a year or so ago. And I just said to him, hey, if I wrote a book about this topic, would you publish it? And he said, yeah, I'd publish that. And I said, okay, well, then I'll write the book. And yeah, a year later or so, here it is. He kept his word and published it, and I kept my word and wrote it within the time frame he gave me. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now.
When did you realize relationships would compound more than skills?
I think I always understood that relationships were key. Um, I think skills can be easily duplicated, and now in the world of AI, many skills can be duplicated and mimicked, but the relationships still can't be.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping they won't be mimicked in the future. Relationships are about a two-way street. It's about zigging and zagging, and people understanding who you are and when to be in your life, when to keep you accountable, when to be a stakeholder, and when not to. So, and it's about upholding each other, supporting each other, and serving each other. So I don't see how necessarily how AI is going to serve you. I know there's some programs out there that I've seen now that are delivering. You can create your own mentorship group with
Hmm.
AI and then use that as a sounding board. And I'm not saying that's not a great tool. It probably is, but those people are not going to follow up and keep you accountable. They're not going to be down at the local bank or whatever and say, "Oh yeah, you're thinking about going into this. I know a guy who's really great,
Hmm.
who's going to share your praises." They're not going to be there to be a stakeholder when you take their advice and maybe something doesn't go quite right. AI is not going to be there to say, "Okay, let's try to fix this now. I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and get my hands in there and try to help you fix this situation."
Hmm.
AI is never going to be able to do that. I don't think. Hopefully not,
Hmm.
because I don't think it would be the same as a human.
I agree with that. What's one mistake that you made early on in your career that you'd want to warn people about?
I think if anything, and I don't know that it was a big mistake, but I think I tried to do it early on is to trust my intuition. And I think there are times where I set my intuition aside because other people said, "Oh no, that's probably not right. You're probably not right about that." Or I think you're, you know, misunderstanding that or that person or whatever. And I think when I decided to move forward with something and ignore my own intuition, and also maybe because I saw that there was an outcome I wanted. Maybe there was a financial end to it that I wanted, or maybe the project was just so great I wanted to be a part of it that I overlooked, some of the people involved that might have been not great people or not, or toxic people or that were going to make the whole situation very very bad in the end. And I don't think I did that a lot or anything, but there might have been one or two situations where I look at it and go, I think I could have invested my time a little bit better.
Hmm.
But either way, in the end, I did learn a lot, and I still went away with some additional skills. And one of those skills is trusting my intuition more,
Hmm.
is fine tuning it, knowing how to name some of the things that I think and feel sometimes that seem intangible or seem very gray or nuanced when I'm meeting people or talking to people. Um, I think now as I've gotten older and fine tuned it, I can pretty quickly put names to those things
Hmm.
and assess the situation and analyze it a lot faster. So that's been a great process for me, and I it's something I really highly encourage other people to do is to trust their gut, trust their intuition, because there's something that their brain is picking up that doesn't make sense, and they need to pay attention. They need to put the caution flag out at the very least. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So the lesson is to trust your intuition more. And in your book, you talked about journaling to fine tune that intuition and to write about certain decisions that you made, how you were feeling about that person or that situation, to write about those things so that that's how you can start to develop that pattern recognition. And when you're in a situation that is similar, you can remember. Am I getting this correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you start to, I call it, I would say another word of referring to it is naming those things, having names for
Mm-hmm.
them, or finding little cubicles for them, cubbies that where they fit. And then when you see them again, those patterns are more evident. They come to you quicker, and you're able to say, you know what, I feel good about this. I feel bad about this. I think that naturally comes with age, but if you're young, I think if you work on it, you can just get there quicker and
Mm-hmm.
make better decisions. And I think a lot of the most successful people, especially in business, they'll refer to a EQ, which is an emotional intelligence. And
Mm-hmm.
to be able to read a situation, to read a room, um, you know, reading a spreadsheet is something anyone can do. A computer can do that. Anyone can analyze those things. Anyone can, create that with a certain skill set, of course. But to be able to read a room and understand where are all these people coming from, what is it that person wants versus the other person across the table, and how can I assess that and know, well, what does that mean for me? How can I negotiate? How can I just have a better understanding of what people's motivations are, which then will serve me better both personally and professionally. And the most successful CEOs have a very high EQ, they say, and that's a big part of that equation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think fine tuning that is something that they're not going to necessarily teach at the MBA Wharton School.
I love this context, Dennis. Let's jump into the framework so listeners can actually apply it. Can you define for me board of directors for life in a couple of minutes? What is it and what is it not?
What it is not is an actual board of directors that meets semi-quarterly or monthly to make decisions about your life, that vote, and that have control and take away your agency. That is definitely not what it is.
Mm.
What it is a loose board of advisors that you refer to it as a board because they're people you want to canvas when you make decisions. They're people with a diverse group of expertise, and they're people who are knowledgeable and perhaps exceptional within their specific spheres of knowledge or influence or what have you. And they are people who can contribute and that you build relationships with that become, like I say, stakeholders and investors in your life. And they're people you serve as well as they serve you. But it's they're people you go to maybe on an individual basis. Maybe you go to two or three at a time, but I don't. With my board, I don't think I ever met with them all at once ever. I may have met with two or three at a time,
Mm.
but never more than that, because they're there for different things, different
Mm-hmm.
purposes, and you may want to bounce a big decision over to each and every one of them, but there's a lot of decisions you make where you maybe just go to one or two of them to get advice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the diverse experience comes into play, diverse skill set that they have. And that, again, helps you to make better decisions, and it's about making more creative problem solving types of decisions, because if you have more people to canvas and get more information from, you're just going to make a better decision. Again, it's Proverbs 15:22, which is essentially, without counsel you make bad decisions. Your plans fail, and
Mm-hmm.
with much counsel your plans succeed. So um, that was really the gist of why I went about this to begin with.
Yeah, it would be really tough to get all of your mentors in one room. You have to be respectful of their time. I know you wrote about that in your book. What changes when someone has that board of directors versus going solo?
Well, I think going solo, you have tunnel vision. You really only have yourself to rely on skill set wise. I mean, I guess now you have the internet, you have AI that can help you, and that is a really great tool, but it's not going to know you, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to know your blind spots and your blocks and all the different things that are maybe difficult to assess. And again, there's the relationship factor that is built up over time. There's the historical knowledge. There's the legacy that you're creating within other people that lives on even after you're gone and continues on. And that is just not something you're going to find in an AI board of
Mm-hmm.
directors.
Have you considered creating an AI board of directors? I know you touched on that earlier
I
today.
I have, yeah, and I might just do it just for fun, to see the kinds of decisions or the kinds of choices they give me with a variety of decisions. But again, having the stakeholders, having those relationships, it's really about, you know, again, the servant leadership aspect. The AI isn't going to serve me, and I'm not going to serve it.
Hmm.
Not really. I think there has to be a greater purpose too. When I went to my boards of directors for things, I didn't ask them for to do things for me personally. And maybe on a very rare occasion, I know there are some introductions I had asked for at one point, but I typically went to them very, very judiciously, and I went to them specifically for a greater purpose. There was a project, a nonprofit, there was something I wanted them to donate to, there was some kind of program I was trying to create, but it was always outside of myself for a better good. It wasn't to use them as social climbers or to sell more real estate or do something, that was about, bettering myself financially. Although I'm not going to say that I believe that that is wrong to do that. I believe that if that's your only purpose for utilizing them, that I think it's wrong. But I think that those things can be incorporated into it. I think you can do business with them. I have no problem with people making money and being successful and working together. But I also realized, also very early on too, nobody does it alone. It's a big myth, and some of the people in the book, and there's some other people I would like to put in the book, but I didn't. That people look at and they seem like singular figures in our society with what they've done and the degree at which they've accomplished what they've done, and I and not to take any credit from them, but they've learned a lot from other people before them, and they've had mentors, all of them. They've all had people who've spoke into their lives, encouraged them, gave them advice. I think of Elon Musk. I mean, he went out there and started asking advice from some pretty huge people,
Mm-hmm.
just finding their phone number and calling them in their offices and starting to talk to them.
Mm.
I mean, he was really a can-do person, aggressive person in that respect. So whatever he set his mind to, he was going to do, but he didn't assume he knew how to do everything, and he knew other people had answers to questions. And I have actually a personal story with Elon Musk. I forgot about this.
Mm.
And I didn't put this in the book because he's become so controversial lately. I didn't want anyone to feel turned off by him
Mm.
in the book. But my neighbor where I live up in Santa Barbara County, and I live not too far from Vandenberg Space Base, where SpaceX launches quite a few of their rockets. And my one of my neighbors, he's very senior. I think he's probably in his 90s even now. Um, and he's my next door neighbor, and he is a rocket scientist, and he's apparently a very well known one. And one day he was over outside my house, and we were talking, and he was saying how, yeah, Elon Musk called me last night and was asking me, about these different polar orbits and which is a preferential way to go about it. And then he got into some very technical language that I'm just have no clue about with rocket science. And I'm listening to him thinking, I think the cheese has fallen off this guy's cracker. He's really old. I don't think Elon Musk really called him. And I said to him, well, if Elon Musk or SpaceX is doing any events or needs any press help for any of their rocket launches that they're having up here, let them know. Here's my card. Give him my card. I'd love to work with them, and I forgot about it and never did anything about it. Well, I don't know. I don't know how many months later. I don't really remember, but months later, I get a call from Elon Musk's personal assistant saying, "Oh, I was told I have to hire you." But the moral of the story is that he is not too proud to ask anybody and to go outside of his own, staff, his own people, his own rocket scientists, to get another opinion, to get something explained to him in a different way by someone else, someone completely outside of that network. And I think that's a really great attribute to be able to go, because most people would say, well, I've got all these people, I've hired all these people, I'm just going to listen to them. But he doesn't. He wants to find out another way. And if you read the biography that was recently done by him, I can't remember the author. I just heard his name today again. But I read the biography, and one of the things Musk also did was they said it was impossible for him to reach this certain amount of cars that he needed to reach in a very short amount of period in his plant in Fremont. And he needed to do literally 3 times as many cars or 4 times as many cars. And it was impossible. And he ended up saying, no, I'm going to do it. And he slept under each and every point of manufacturing until he could perfect that and get the timing down much lower so that he could meet that goal, because everyone was short selling his stock because of this. Bill Gates was, everybody, because they said his company's going to fail. And he said, no, it's not. I'm going to fix this. And literally about a quarter, maybe more, of all the robots, he took them out because he found that even with a human, it was able to actually go faster. That process was, and everyone involved was like, oh, no, automation is, you can't, automation is faster, accurate, more, but when he actually took the time, and he would sleep underneath those different stations within the plant for like a month until he got it down, he met his goal, the impossible goal. And we all know where Tesla is today. So anyways, it's all that to say is like he thinks outside the box. He's looking for diverse opinions, whether they're from inside or outside of his company. It doesn't really matter. And that's part of the whole ethos of building a good group, a good diverse group of advisors or board members or mentors.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that story, Dennis. And that's big props to you for getting those projects with him. I didn't know that personal story. Like you mentioned, it's not in the book. And that's huge to be working with Elon Musk. So it sounds like Elon Musk does this correctly. What's the biggest wrong version of this concept that you're teaching?
I don't know. I mean, other than for people to feel like they can do it without the relationship component, I think that's very short-sighted. I know there's some people who are very introverted and they say, well, I just don't have the extroverted chops to do that. Well, so I'm an introvert. And it was never comfortable for me to do it. But I went outside my comfort zone because I had another purpose in why I was doing it. And it became very rewarding to me, and the relationship factor. And I have to say, over the years, I'm not really an introvert anymore. I think through many years of pushing myself to build relationship and to have relationships and to foster those, I think I'm more on the extrovert side. When I look at the Myers-Briggs testing, I think I'm actually testing kind of either in the middle or on the extrovert side. So I think you can change your brain, even how it functions. And they're even doing studies now that say that even late in life, you can retrain your brain. Your synaptic nerves can find new pathways, and so don't yeah, don't say, well, don't settle in, well, I'm an introvert. I don't want to do this. I want to have the relationships. So I guess coming back to your question, I've kind of gone a little afoot there, but I think, the only thing I can think of is that people want to find a way, maybe through social media, or podcasts or whatever, to get everything they need there. And I'm not against those. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of great podcasts, a lot of great information, a lot of great people teaching great stuff. But those people aren't going to hold you accountable. They're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be invested in your life. They're not going to be stakeholders, and they're not going to be there when you need them. When something really bad happens, you're not going to be able to call up Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know who you are and they
Yeah.
don't care. So, without the relationships that you have to put the time in, it's like anything. You have to be disciplined. You have to put the work in. If you want the result without putting the work in, then you don't deserve the outcome. You don't
Mm.
deserve the great outcome that you're trying to get to. And I know that there's some people this book isn't going to be right for them because they're happy where they are. They want to, they want to settle. They don't really want to improve their lives. They don't want to improve the lives of the people around them. They just want to settle where they are. They're happy with wherever they are, and that's fine. But I think if you're ambitious, if you want to improve yourself, you want to improve the people around you, you really want to strive for excellence in making decisions and the work that you do and really make a real impact, then a book like this is a great roadmap for that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I do think the book is an excellent roadmap for that. What are the key seats that people should fill on their board, Dennis? I know in your book you gave examples about your life and what you needed at that time, but is there a blueprint that people can follow if they don't know what their preferences are? Just certain roles that you think go for these seats, these type of people, and these will help you. What would be those?
I think it is different for
Okay.
everyone. But I often find, excuse me, everyone needs somebody who knows how to manage money, whether it's a financial planner, a banker, a accountant, or I think everyone needs someone like that. I think everyone needs someone who is spiritual in nature, or pastoral, or, I think everyone could use, these days someone who understands the law or business, and maybe even someone who's really knowledgeable or helpful about health or wellness. I think those are all kind of categories that everyone could use. I know a lot of married couples probably overlook the financial thing. They want to be attuned on so many other issues, and they think the finances will solve for themselves. But the number one reason people get divorced is financial
Mm.
disunity. One partner or the other has a different attitude or value about money, and then they fight all the time about it because it becomes a power dynamic in the relationship. And that is the number one reason statistically for divorce. It's not because they have a different religion. It's not because they don't get along about how to raise the kids. It's surprisingly money.
Mm.
So, those are the kinds of things that I think are really basic to people, and they should either find them as mentors or, um, pay to have them to get good advice.
Yeah. I know
Excuse me.
that everyone on the internet gives financial advice, but of course, they always say this is not financial advice. But a lot of my generation gets their advice through the internet and they're watching online mentors and they try to apply what they are learning about money. But what you're recommending is that they actually seek real relationships in their world, whether that's a banker, someone that they hire. I know that I've gone that route of searching on Google financial advisors near me. And is that what you are recommending instead of listening to the advice online?
I think the advice online is kind of like maybe the start to
Okay.
to getting real advice in person. I think it's better to get real tailored advice for you.
Mm-hmm.
especially with health and fitness
Okay.
and spiritual. I don't think, online is going to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's going to be catered to you and your circumstances, or marriage and family therapy, or you're not going to just get that through something online. Financing, it just depends on what it is. There is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good information out there, but I think you still have to find someone you trust
Okay.
that is gonna give you good advice, because there's some charlatans out there. We just came off of a cryptocurrency high, where a lot of people have said that there's there's no downside,
Mm-hmm.
but there's been a downside. It's still a viable future there, but everyone jumped in,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just, it's always trends like that, and then people are listening to everyone online saying what they're saying, and I think you need an individual who, when they tell you something, they also, like, because they're telling you something, they
Mm-hmm.
feel accountable too to what they're telling you. Someone online is not accountable to you. They don't.
Yeah.
If you come to them and say, "Hey, I lost all this money in Bitcoin. You tell me to invest," they're like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
you know. So yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's
All
okay.
right.
Thank you. What about the spiritual side? Who do you recommend that people seek out for their spiritual needs?
Well, I think as a Christian, obviously I'm gonna seek out a pastor,
Okay.
or leaders within my church, or people within my home group, or Bible study, people within my Christian community. So those are the kind of people I'm going to seek out and try to find people who resonate with me, that I think are have the skills. I know I know there's different ways of looking at that for different people, but and also people with different faiths can obviously find people that resonate with them within their faith. But I think that's very important to be guided by that,
Mm-hmm.
individually and as a couple. And I also feel like, and this is just a personal observation of mine. It's not necessarily super necessarily connected to the book, but I find that people who are getting married or thinking of getting married
Mm-hmm.
should see a professional marriage and family therapist, a Christian one, in my view,
Mm-hmm.
as a Christian, but they should see someone like that on an ongoing basis, to before their marriage and even after their marriage. And I've seen too many people rely on what I would call pastoral counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and well-intended pastors, very good people, very good teachers, very good shepherds of their church, perhaps, but maybe not good at therapy, not good at really understanding the psychology within a particular relationship or individuals, because they weren't necessarily trained for that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, I wouldn't go, to a banker as a Christian who was just a Christian, who maybe wasn't necessarily a banker. He wasn't certified, but he maybe worked at a bank a little bit, and then
Mm-hmm.
asked him for advice. I'd be like, I'd want to go to someone who was certified or whatever,
Right.
or an accountant might be a better example.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to go to a CPA. I don't want to go to someone who just does, they file their taxes with with respect to my business,
Mm-hmm.
who's just files taxes at H&R Block once a year,
Mm-hmm.
who's trained in putting the right information into the computer. I want to go to somebody who knows really what they're doing,
Yeah.
especially when it's really important, like my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, that makes sense, Dennis. I've shared with you that I have my Bible study group and we meet regularly on a weekly basis. And I'm a Christian myself, and my brothers and sisters in Christ fully support me. And there is something very unique about having advisors, people that you trust, that truly know you and that you've gone through various experiences with, because they get to see those different sides of you. And I'm a testimony of how beneficial that can be for the spiritual side of things. I don't personally have a relationship with my pastor, but I lean a lot on my friends from my Bible study group. Dennis, one concept that you focused on a lot in your book is having a diverse board of directors. Why is that important?
I think it's diversity brings a creativity to your decision making process. It helps you to see sides and points of views that you might not normally look at, that might not be in your echo chamber. And I think, even if they are sometimes people who you may not share the same political views, for example, I have a couple people who I value very highly. They're still people of integrity and high moral values and stuff, and I that's a non-compromising aspect. But there are other views and things I don't necessarily agree with, but I hear them out and I get to think about things differently sometimes because of their point of view, and it just helps to round out my thinking and gives me all sides to a situation. And that's the only way you can make good decisions, if you hear all the sides and keep an. Mind about things. So that's part of it. But also, you think of the concept of the liberal arts education. There could be some ups and downs to that in recent years. And that's a whole nother debate. But I think the concept is that you're cross training the brain. Maybe someone who's an engineer is taking art classes as part of his education. He's taking music. He's taking physical education. He's taking all these different, maybe history, even though he's going to be an engineer. And those things help to cross train your brain. They've done studies on that. And this kind of different kind of thinking is there's many examples throughout history of people who've used that kind of thinking to be truly creative thinkers, problem solvers. And, there's a lot of genius there because you're using different pathways and different, ways of looking at things. And I think having people, like I said, who have these diverse skill sets, diverse views, really does help to give you a broader point of view. But at the end of the day, again, I always come back to, it's about your agency. You're the one making the decisions. You're only going to them for advice. They're not making the decisions. They don't veto you. You're making those choices, and you're responsible. And you don't ever want to lose that. But you don't lose sight of that. That's very important.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. How do you identify the right people, Dennis? What filters did you use in your life, or what filters do you teach people to use to identify the right board of directors?
I personally like to go and people who stand out are people who are excellent at what they do, whatever that is. People who are consistent with the words they say and the actions they do, and there's a consistency there. There's certain values that they express that I appreciate morally, ethically, and so on. And there's just a overall. I think one thing that always intrigues me is people who aren't happy with the status quo. People who have some degree of ambition, some degree of striving to better themselves or others, and they're not just letting life happen to them. They're recognizing that life is not only precious, but that they have a responsibility in life to use their talents and I feel like maximize their influence within the world. And that, again, brings me to the idea of your sphere of influence. I don't know if we touched on that before because I've
No, we
talked about
didn't.
this today with another group. I'm sorry.
It's
So I'm
okay.
getting a little but this idea that I think I talk about in the book is the sphere of influence that you have, and everyone has a sphere of influence. You could be the president, and clearly you have a massive one, or you could be like the example I used in my book is my service manager at my BMW dealership, who had a very specific sphere of influence, but he understood it and he served the people within that sphere,
Mm-hmm.
both up and down. And he was the go-to person. He ran that dealership. Even though the owners were the people who owned it,
Mm-hmm.
they often came to him for advice. But he also was a buffer between the management, which was a bit toxic,
Mm-hmm.
and the staff. And so the staff would go to him with issues and problems, and he would, moderate that and between them and the ownership. And he also was just very service oriented. He cared about people. He brought in good people. And sometimes when people weren't doing as well as they should, he would usher them out, but in a kind way. He'd help them find another job. He wouldn't just fire them and say, get out. He was just a really great person. He invested in everyone, and everyone, made him a part of their family. And he was a big influence within that sphere, much more than most other people. And when he left, there was a very noticeable vacuum there. People started to leave the company.
Yeah.
It became very toxic. I stopped going there because my service just started to get really bad. I was just not treated the same. It was just really terrible. And before that, when I was mentoring him too throughout the process when he was there, and he had the highest performing BMW service department revenue performing in the United States during the time he was there. And after he left, it collapsed. So it was his servant leadership attitude and understanding his area of influence. And you could be a janitor and you see two people a night every night when you're cleaning a building in the middle of the night. That's your sphere of influence, and you
Mm-hmm.
have the ability then to have an influence over those people. So what are you going to do? Are you going to have that influence and have a positive impact, or are you just going to ignore that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think knowing what that is and operating within that and saying I have a responsibility to operate within that is a whole nother level of, I think, maturity and a recognition about your role in life. It isn't just to go 9 to 5 to a job and have the weekends off and go to, Cabo once in a while and do the holidays and rinse and repeat throughout the years and raise your
Mm-hmm.
kids and then retire. I think there's a lot more responsibility there that people pass on, and they don't think it's part of their world. And I think if people took on that mantra and understood that and became servant leaders, it'd be a really different world.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any red flags, Dennis, that people can quickly point out when looking for those mentors? And are they just the opposite of the qualities that you mentioned? Inconsistency, saying they do one thing, but they don't actually do that? What are
Yeah.
some other ones?
I think you just said it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the inverse of all the positive things I think I shared.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to see chaos, inconsistency, toxicity, when the people around them don't like working for them,
Mm-hmm.
you even if you go to work in a company at any point, I would ask years ago when I haven't worked for anyone in a long time, but I would ask my employer questions about what's their managerial style, and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And you see a manager treating everyone like they're his personal, attendants or whatever, like they're just there to do what he says, instead of recognizing the fact that he's there to serve them, invest in them, and be a part of their personal development. You don't want to work there. It's just going to become a really toxic environment.
Hmm.
It can't be anything but that,
Yeah.
because there's a lack of concern or caring, and the only thing that matters is the performance factor, which does matter. Don't get me wrong, it really does matter because that's what your
Mm-hmm.
company is about. But if you deal with the human factor and the relational factor, the performance factor will happen
Mm-hmm.
automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just looking at the performance factor, you're never going to get the other part right, and it's not, and both are going to fail,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have a lot of debris, wounded people along the way. So, um, yeah, you just want to look for
Okay.
for people who are servant oriented. Have a servant's heart. I was telling someone today, that being a servant also up to your boss. A lot of people are like, well, my job title is this, and I don't do that thing at work. They asked me to go, I don't know, make coffee, and that's not in my job description. And my attitude is like, if it's not illegal or immoral and he's paying you and you're there, do whatever your boss says. Make his life easy. If you make your boss's life easy, you're indispensable. You're unfireable because he's like, that person's always like anticipating my needs, making life easy for me, remembering things. I know Anna Winter, one of my friends has worked with Anna Winter. I don't know if you know who that is, but
No,
she
I'm not
was
familiar.
they based the movie Devils Wear Prada on her. And they also, she's the head of Vogue and she's the most powerful woman in fashion. And she's
Wow.
apparently very, not a very nice person to work for. Anyway, my friend who's worked with her, because he has a company that does big events in New York, and he does all the events for Vogue and all the publications, the big fashion brands like Louis Vuitton and all that. And he was telling me one time that Anna Winter does not like to say something twice. If she gives someone an instruction on her team, that's it.
Yeah.
If she has to say it a second time, you're on her dead list.
Wow.
And I kind of am like, I kind of agree with that, to be honest. As someone who's been an employer too, it's like,
Yeah.
help me to help you, to help you help me. It's like,
Yeah.
if I have to tell you twice, then you're not showing up today. You're just not showing up. And it's like, I could see once in a great while, but you're there to, I'm telling you something, pay attention and let's get it done,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pay attention to you, and if I have to like remember the work that you're doing, then I'm doing my job and I'm having to remember to do your job too. And that means eventually, if that happens more than enough, I'm gonna get rid of that person because I just want to do my job. I want to hire someone to do your job.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't blame her for that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
little
Thanks
bit
for
offshoot.
no, thanks for sharing that example. That paints the picture perfectly. So now we understand some of the filters that people can use and some of the red flags that they can see immediately. But how does one go about having that interaction with that person? What do they say? Do they ask right away, hey, do you want to be on my board of directors?
No,
How
you
does
definitely
one,
don't do that.
yeah, how does one go about building that relationship?
I think you just start out small. Start out with a meeting, a coffee or whatever, an informational meeting. Come with, wanting to learn some stuff, but also come with a desire to share or, provide something positive to them if you can. And if you can't, you can't, but go there with an attitude to be like, I want to learn from you but don't set expectations on the relationship. And one of the ways you set expectations is saying, you want to be my mentor.
Yeah.
And that could mean so many things to so many people. And I know if someone said that to me, even I'd be, wow, I don't know. I just don't know. What is that? What does that mean? I'd rather have it evolve over time and get to a point where you don't even realize it, they don't realize it, and suddenly you're like, oh, we've got this thing going, like any relationship, so it's that's and you do it a little at a time, and then when you want someone else, what I did was I asked my mentor to introduce me to someone else, but there was a purpose too. I have to say that I was in the middle of trying to create something or do something within the community, and so I'd say, who could I talk to? And they'd say, well, you should talk to the president of this foundation. He's got his hand in all these areas and he could probably help fund it and da 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 da. So I'd go to him, and next thing you know, I'm building a relationship with him. And it's kind of a working relationship because I'm trying to do something and he sees my initiative and when you're younger, they even more so want to help because you're not a threat to them, to their job or to anything that's going on. You're just someone they can help, and, when you're a little older, it's a little harder, but it's still very doable. It's
Okay.
still very, very doable. You can still do it. You just have to, yeah, just start doing it,
Yeah.
and eventually people will respond. There's always, it's about chemistry too. You
Hmm.
might meet someone and they might be fantastic. Sometimes you hear that old saying, be careful. Sometimes you don't want to meet your mentor, your heroes in life. You meet them and they're not that heroic.
Yeah.
But maybe you meet someone and you're like, it's not even that. They're a great person, but the chemistry is just not there.
Hmm.
It's not clicking. Well, don't force it.
Hmm.
There's lots of other people out there.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
find somebody else, that's gonna be there that wants to participate. And it's a two-way street. It's like any other
Hmm.
relationship. It's just, you build it over time,
Yeah.
slowly, carefully. And like I said, I was very judicious about it, how I
Hmm.
approached them, when I approached them, why I thought about it. I didn't just pick up the phone all the
Right.
time and bug them. And um, so yeah, you just start out small, and it's
Yeah.
it's kind of the
Yeah, it sounds like the key is to let things develop naturally, be intentional, focus on being of service. For context for the audience, you and I met at a friend, Nicholas. It was a mutual connection that we had, and he introduced us, and we just hit it off that night, and we had a great conversation. I mean, I don't even remember how long it lasted because I was just having such a good conversation with you,
yeah, me too.
and we exchanged contact information. Obviously, I didn't ask you right away, "Hey, Dennis, do you want to be my mentor?" I didn't put any sort of expectation on you, and not that I'm trying to. We're really just focused on building a friendship,
Hmm.
and we check in on each other weekly. We've gone out to eat once or twice. And yeah, we let things develop naturally. Just wanted the audience to kind of get a real
Yeah.
life example and understand how you and I met. But this is great, Dennis. I want to pivot into servant leadership for a few minutes. Then we'll close with what you're working on this year. How does servant leadership shape the way that you mentor and build relationships?
I think as a Christian, I think Jesus's role in life was as a servant leader.
Hmm.
I think our ultimate purpose is to be servants. And I think whenever you're a true servant, you're actually leading. So I think it's inexorable. They're connected, and you can't separate the two really.
That might be a hard one for people to wrap their heads around. To be a servant, being a servant, you actually lead.
Yeah.
For Christians, for me, it makes sense,
Yeah.
but for people that are
Well,
not,
yeah,
it's a very,
I had a 71-year-old woman, a very intelligent 71-year-old woman, tell me that recently,
yeah.
that she thought the thing I like about your book is the concept that seemed, she said, that was the most innovative to me was the servant leadership thing. I really
Hmm.
hadn't heard about that before.
Wow.
And I was like, really? Okay. But, everyone has different backgrounds and
Yeah.
different things they grow up with. But yeah,
Hmm.
anyway, I don't know if you were finishing us.
No, yeah, I just
Oh,
wanted to say that.
yeah, I would just say, the that's really ultimately, the goal. And I think, at some point I thought, if I want to be a leader in life in any way, shape, or form, what does it say about that biblically, And, I looked at kingship and things like that. And any of the kings in the Bible that were worth anything were servants. And so I thought to myself, I realized the more I explored, excuse me,
Take your time.
the more I explored, the Bible, and trying to understand like what are really solid leadership aspects, the more I came back to like just being a servant. And there's not, and obviously telling the truth, having integrity, all of that. But if you're serving other people, it's easier to do a lot of those things.
Hmm.
You know, why would you lie? Because if you're lying, that means you're trying to put yourself ahead of somebody else in a given situation.
Hmm.
If you're trying to cheat or you're trying to manipulate, you're trying to do anything that's immoral, it's kind of like you're just putting yourself first.
Hmm.
That's all you're doing. It's just
Yeah.
a form of self. So, but if you're serving other people, it's kind of hard to be like, well, I'm going to lie to this person so I can serve them. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a scenario where that really works.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really focused on serving other people, then you know, there's a lot of people will overlook you, I'm sure. I know in our modern culture of, there's this idea of being a business person or whatever, and being a servant leader is probably foreign to some people.
Mm-hmm.
And by no means do I say you should be a walking mat or be taken advantage of or let yourself be taken or not have boundaries or not be steadfast or stand up for yourself or stand up for other people, because I definitely do that. People who know me know I'm fierce when it comes to certain things in certain situations, and I don't get people out of countries because I'm weak kneed or something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I've done, some of the battles I've had that I maybe will never end up in these books, where I've had to deal with people much more powerful, and I've had to, yeah, and I've won. So,
Yeah.
obviously, with God's help. But at the end of the day, it's really about serving people,
Yeah.
and what the better good is. It's not necessarily, there's a lot of times too where I'm like, yeah, well, yours,
Mm-hmm.
God. You're gonna take care of
Mm-hmm.
this, not me. But either way, that is really to me the focus of life. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize, I'm just here to shut up and serve and
Mm-hmm.
try to serve in whatever capacity I can. Obviously, I want to better myself, and I want to, you know, do it in the most far-reaching, sophisticated way, because that's just how I think. I want to do it where I maximize my sphere of influence,
Mm-hmm.
because I think if God put me here to do that, and He gave me the mindset to do that and the skills to do that, and I'm not doing it, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm sinning as great as if I'm doing any other sin.
Yeah.
So using your talents is, I think you're going to be called to account for that. Anyway, so that's a big part of this servant leadership thing, and I think people who are paying attention and will see that,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll recognize the leadership. And I've seen that happen in my life. People who come to me for advice or help or whatever, even though I wasn't the most brash person in that situation or that work environment or in that client situation.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew that, there's this quiet, what you would call, I don't know, quiet confidence or quiet power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you have it and you're not, and I think fear is a terrible corrupter. It's a really terrible thing. And to find ways to remove fear from your life is a really revelatory thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people have some or many aspects of their lives where they're afraid, afraid to do things, afraid to, anyway. And I think getting rid of that is, and it's not easy. You have to fight it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm always willing to fight a new fear that shows up that I didn't know I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really important part too, is living without fear. So then you can have faith,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things: faith, hope, love. You can serve people, and you can do it without fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're called to do as human beings. That's our ultimate purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And where it all ends up, and where things fall, that's not for me to decide. But
Yeah.
it's for me to say, I did everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did everything I could that I could think of to do in every
I
way
love that.
that I possibly could. And that's it.
Yeah, that was beautifully said, Dennis. And I do want to say, I think you're teaching about this, but I think you embody it too. From the short, I think 2 months that I've known you, I think you embody servant leadership. So
Well,
thank
thank
you for
you.
that. Dennis, to wrap this up, I just want to give the audience an opportunity to understand what you're focused on in 2026. What's getting you excited nowadays? What projects do you have going on?
I think sharing about this concept, since I have
Mm-hmm.
this book out now, is a big thing. I'm finishing up my Epic Impact Creativity Innovation Summit, which is the end of April in Santa Barbara. We have some great people coming for that. And I think, and the other thing is relaunching my company Polis Assist, which is the kind of like the ways of parking. Kind of will help you find free parking in LA, and will help you to
I downloaded
decipher
the
all
app.
the. Thanks.
Yeah, I downloaded it.
Yeah, and it's getting refreshed, and the data is getting refreshed and everything.
Okay.
So it will be increasingly accurate throughout the next 2 months to a much higher degree by the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're relaunching that, and going to see where that goes. And there's some other things I'm working on too that I don't want to talk about, but right now at least. But again, I have a. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to
That's
say anymore,
that's great.
and get too out far out in front of my skis.
That's great. That's great. Lastly, where can people find you and where can people buy your book?
Anywhere you can buy the book, anywhere like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart.com, and any of those. There's many sites you can buy it on. You can buy it internationally. I've seen it in the UK, Japan, Spain, France, Australia. You can buy it there as well. And you can go to my website, which is your board and the number four and then the word life.com,
Mm,
or my dmbaker.com, and learn more about me or what I'm doing or connect with me or whatever, or social media
okay.
for those same social media handles. So yeah.
Perfect. I've been thinking about this and I want to do this, Dennis, but I want to give 3 copies away to 3 people that watch this episode. But you have to like this video, subscribe to the podcast, and I want you to leave your 3 main takeaways from the book or anything that you learned. Once you do that, I'll be reading the comments and I'll cover all the expenses, but you'll get your free copy of Dennis's wonderful book. Dennis,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for this time. It was an
Thank you so much.
honor.
You're a great interviewer.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Dennis, and I look forward to continue to build this relationship.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Me too.